a picture of me. Don't I just look like serious? I remember when we did this photo shoot, I was like, I cannot take myself serious right now. Like I'm not the like sexy face kind of girl. So it's hard for me. I prefer to just do like the fake laugh. But this is like me in a whole new light. Anyways, so without a scalable offer, you can't scale. And I think a lot of us are moving in our business under this assumption that like, if I keep doing what I'm doing, if I keep serving people at a high level, if I keep marketing myself, I'm going to be able to scale, right? I'm going to be able to grow. And that is very, very far from the truth, because sometimes you're going to do all of that work, right? But you're not going to be able to get past a certain point simply because the offer itself isn't scalable, or the process isn't scalable, the back end isn't scalable, right? So the part that most people miss, before you can think about scaling, you need to ask yourself, can I even scale what I have, right? So just thinking about doing what you do now and doubling it, working with double the people. How does that make you feel, right? When you think about that, like, does that freak you out? Does that feel like there's no way? Growing your team without a scalable offer is pointless and expensive. So let me give you an example. Let's say you are a coach who only offers like a one-on-one service, and you don't want to train anybody else to be able to offer this service for you. So what happens here is, at the end of the day, you can only work with so many people, right? And so you maybe hire an admin who helps you with your onboarding and your offboarding, but that only helps so much, right? It doesn't take the actual client load off of your plate. And so now you've hired a marketing person, an admin person, a tech person, a salesperson, but you become the bottleneck because the number of clients that we serve isn't able to grow, right? And so now you're paying triple in payroll what you were before, but like the revenue isn't growing. So that's only like one really quick example, but just thinking about your own business, like, have you set it up in a way that you can grow past where you are, right? This doesn't always mean that you have to ditch one-on-one. I do not believe that at all. I know very successful 7-figure business owners that still have like a one-on-one offer of sorts. But I do think it means that we might need to diversify our business, or just simply restructuring it in a way that it makes more sense. Frank says he had to stop marketing his business because I was at capacity. I know so many people that do that, right? And we have to kind of go into our rabbit hole and, maybe just promote a wait list. And then by the time we're able to come back out, either people aren't interested anymore, or you're just simply so burnt out that you don't want to do it anymore, right? So this is a very, 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 very common roadblock. And the craziest thing is that you think, oh, I'm stuck, I need to hire. But sometimes the team girl is going to tell you hiring the team isn't the solution. Sometimes we have to start here. So you'll notice we talked about mindset and then we're going straight into offers. We're not talking about team stuff until later today, because that means nothing if this isn't right. So when we're thinking about the word scalable, I want you to think, could you serve more people, make more money, increase capacity without compromising service, without compromising your quality of life, without compromising, the amount of hours that you're having to work? If those two things couldn't happen together, then there's likely a gap somewhere. So pricing your offers. Ooh, I love talking about pricing. Let's talk about money, y'all. So you're going to want to take several things into consideration when you're pricing your offers, right? First of all, is remembering that you run a company and not a charity. So I think sometimes we want to, be the affordable person. We want to, just do all of those things. And if you've learned nothing else during this period of inflation that we've been experiencing, it should be that like, I have to be able to price my services at a point that like I can still live, right? You provide a service or a product to your customers, your clients, right? And value to those that buy from you. And it's simply an exchange. You're exchanging money for this value that you're offering, right? And accessibility is a cop-out. some of my opinions are a little harsh, and it's not to be like mean, right? It's to kind of stop you in your tracks from some of the things that you've been trained to believe about your business for so long, right? The more that you try to be accessible to the wrong clients, the less accessible your vision becomes. Like, stamp this one on your forehead. The more that you try to be accessible to the wrong clients, the less accessible your vision becomes. It almost goes back to that example earlier today when we talked about, you're a coach and you're having your coaching calls at 6, 7 p.m. at night because you want to be accessible to your clients. Well, now your vision is becoming less accessible because you're spending less time at home. You're spending less time with your kids. You're not leaving your office until 8, 9 p.m. at night. And now you're exhausted and you got to, eat, jump in the bed and get up and do it all over again the next day. Right. So when we're thinking about the way that we've priced our offers, yes, we want it to be something that is within the ballpark of our ideal client, right? Full transparency, there are people who will apply for Grindaholics Anonymous who may not be able to afford it at that time. But honestly, it never strikes my mind that, like, oh, well, we need to lower the price so that we can better meet them. What that tells me is this person is likely going to be an ideal client for us, but not yet. Because if they're not able to swing this investment, they likely aren't able to continue to pay people on a regular basis, right? And so all it does is it gives me more data around, well, who should we be marketing to? Who are our ideal clients? Generally speaking, our ideal client makes very consistent revenue, right? They're making high 4 figures to 5 figures a month. We definitely have had people on different, outside of that, but maybe they had access to some sort of funding that they were going to be able to use to pay their team. So I guess the moral of the story, the point that I'm trying to convey here is that if you're trying to be accessible, you're likely trying to access the wrong clientele, because the right person that's very fit for your offer, whatever your offer is, will likely be able to afford the thing that you're selling, right? So a couple things that you want to factor in when you're thinking about your pricing. The 4 T's. I have not talked about the 4 T's in a long time, but first of all, you need to think about the amount of time that it takes you to execute on this offer. So let me use an example here. Who do we have? Lindsay Walker, you do PR, correct? I think she does PR. Let me know in the chat if you do PR. I just want to not give the wrong example. Or maybe she stepped out. But let's say Lindsay does PR, right? And the thing that she does for her client is that she will help you manage inquiries that are coming in and out for different opportunities, speaking engagements, whatever. I want you to think about the amount of time that it takes you to execute. Yes, your response time, the time that it takes you to respond to an inquiry, might only be a couple of minutes. But what about the time that it takes to prep, right? What about the time that it takes you to research different clients that would be a good fit? What about the time that it takes you to get to know your client, do your onboarding and all of that? What about the time that it takes you to create these pitches and to follow up on the pitches, right? The time that it takes you to put all this data into a spreadsheet that you send over to your client every month. You have to think about all of the elements. Yes, I show up every week for an hour and a half to coach in my program, but there are so many other elements. I'm reviewing homework, I'm enhancing the curriculum, I'm talking to clients outside of the program, I'm, reviewing questions before the call starts. So I have to incorporate all of that into the process, not just the hour that I'm spending with them, right? Next, thinking about your level of talent, like your clients are getting access to your years and years of experience, or they're getting access to the fact that you paid, $10,000 to go through this certification program to get this skill set. They're paying to get access to the fact that you've studied multiple years at a university to get this skill set. Price accordingly. And then the next T is transformation, considering the transformation that people are going to get by working with you. The cost of working with me is on the higher end because the level of transformation that people are getting with me will last a lifetime. Through working with me, humble brag, through working with me, clients have been able to double their team, double their revenue, take 3-week vacations, take 3-month maternity leaves, start second businesses, begin speaking on stages, writing books, things that they would have never had time to do had they not done this type of work, right? And so the transformation is reflected in the price point. But let's say you are offering, let's say maybe you're selling, maybe you're selling a product, maybe you're selling gel pens. I have a pen on my desk. Maybe you're wholesaling gel pens, right? Maybe a pack of gel pens is not going to cost, $35 for 3 pens, because the level of transformation, the level of experience, the thing that they're getting with this price point may not match that, right? And so that doesn't mean that we all have to go out and charge $10,000 for the thing that we do. It just means that it needs to be reflected in all of these T's, right? And then the last T, which in my opinion is the most important, is that you have to be able to hire and pay a team. Eliminate self-inflicted stress. If you're charging $500 a month for your service that you should be charging $2,000 a month for, and you're wondering why you can't afford to hire a team, I mean, I can tell you right now, it's because you're charging $500 a month. And on the next slide, I'm going to show you an example, so it'll all kind of come, full circle for you. And then lastly, just taking the emotion out of it. Again, this is a logic-based decision. We're pricing based on logic. We're pricing based on what the 4 T's are telling us. We're pricing based on the needs of the company, and we're pricing based on the value that our clients are getting from us. Is this making sense? Is this resonating? Okay. Next one. So you minimize your legacy when you undercharge. This is another one to stamp on your forehead. Anytime you see a white screen with big orange letters, this is a stamp on your forehead moment. When you undercharge, you minimize your legacy. When you undercharge, you can serve less people because you reach your capacity faster, right? When you undercharge, you are most likely going to be exhausting yourself. You're minimizing your legacy by doing that because you're not able to do the things that you've initially set out to do, right? When you undercharge, you're not able to serve at the level that you want to serve, right? You want to be able to get your clients this massive transformation, but you're not able to because you're rushing because you have to get to the next client so that you can keep the lights on, right? So let's look at this example. So let's say we are a social media manager and we have 5 clients. 5 clients puts us at capacity and we're charging $1,000 a month for this service. It's a full service offer. We're creating the content, we're, doing some engagement, so on and so forth, right? So we're maxed out at 5 clients. That is our absolute capacity. And so what that tells me is that puts our revenue at $5,000 a month. The most we can ever make is $5,000 a month. And so we have decided to pay ourselves 30%, which is pretty standard. So 30% is $1,500 a month. So we're paying ourselves $1,500. We set aside about 3% for, your fees between Stripe, PayPal, different softwares you may be paying for. We set aside 20% for taxes. So that's $1,000. We set aside 10% for savings just to have an emergency fund. And then lastly, we have our education slash miscellaneous. Maybe this is a coach, maybe this is a course or a program, or just some of the miscellaneous expenses that come along with business, right? And so that leaves us $1,000 left per month, which would typically be our profit, but it's what we have left to hire with, right? That leaves us $1,000 a month. So let's look at how this breaks down. So why is this problematic? First of all, let me go back. Does anybody resonate with this? This type of breakdown? Does this feel relative for you on how much you're charging and how much you have to work with people, right? So why is this problematic? So you have $1,000 left to hire help. Let me tell you right now, in this economy, that's not a whole lot. So let's say you find someone for $30 an hour, which is, I'd say, pretty standard. You find someone for $30 an hour, you can only afford to pay them for 33 hours a month of work, right? 33 hours. But you have 5 full service clients who you're working with, I don't know, probably about triple that, right? Between all of your clients. Not to mention, yes, you need client support, but you're also really struggling in admin. You're also really struggling with social media, right? And so you have 33 hours a month, but like you don't know how to get the amount of support that you need with only this $1,000, right? And the next thing is, when are you going to be able to train, right? Because if you only have this $1,000, you are putting a lot of pressure on this person to come in and be ready like ASAP, right? So when are you going to have time to take a step back? You're at capacity, right? And I think another point is, just because you're undercharging doesn't mean your potential team members do. You're most likely working with a contractor at this phase, right? So just because you're not charging enough doesn't mean that everyone who's applying for this position isn't charging $40, $50 an hour, isn't charging a, $2,000 a month retainer, right? So let's see. I see some questions. So nope, not in retail. Okay, cool. So for the retail example, the way that you can kind of think of this is less of like the number of clients, but more so looking at your volume for the month, your sales volume for the month, and dividing that by like the cost of your average service or average product. So if you're a stylist, what is your average service price, right? Or if you're selling a product, what's your average product price and how many of those products or services are we selling? And then basically looking at it the exact same way, right? Where does your money divide out at? And at the end of the day, what are you left to hire support with? And you can kind of compare that to like the support that you actually need. Frank says, I pay myself last. Frank, you are your first employee. You got to pay yourself. I'd say no matter how much you're making in your business, you need to pay yourself something, because it just creates the habit of, I work here and I get compensated for the work that I do. Petra, what's the best way to let your existing clients know that you are raising your prices? So you can do like a rate increase email. Lucy says a really nice email that talks about why you're worth this higher price. You can do a rate increase email that's essentially letting them know that you're going to be raising your price to X amount based on, how the company is growing. And you always want to frame these emails from the perspective of why it's valuable to them, right? Why that you increasing your price allows you to offer a higher caliber of service, or allows you to, increase or diversify like the offerings that you're able to give to your clients. And then give them like a reasonable like time frame. So when my CFO raised her prices by $1,000 a month, I want to say I had like 4 or 5 months before the price increase was going to take into effect. And she gave me multiple options, either to move into the higher package, to move down to another package, or that they could refer me to another client. So yeah, that's a couple different ways. So that's the product or the problematic kind of way to do this, right? So burnout is often self-inflicted. If you're feeling like, I'm so burned out, I'm at capacity, we most likely can look inward and figure out, well, what have we done to essentially lead to this point, right? So now I want to give you a different example. So we have that same social media agency offer, right? The full service management offer. And let's say we priced it at $2,200, and y'all, there are social media managers charging $5,000 and $7,000 a month for this. I was just giving like a super reasonable example, right? So $2,200. At this point, we're able to actually drop a client. We're able to just serve 4 clients on a higher level, but we're still able to more than double our revenue, right? So now at this point, we're making $11,000 a month. So again, we're still paying ourselves 30%. Now we're paying ourselves $3,300 a month, which again, we've doubled, right? Fees and softwares, taxes, savings. You'll see our education budget goes up, so we can really invest in our future. We can really invest in furthering our skill set. But that's going to leave you $2,420 to then go out and hire people with, right? So what does this look like? Way more sustainable, right? 142% more in revenue. But guess what, guys? what the world is teaching you to look at is how to go from 5K months to 10K months, right? And while that is valuable, I want you to see that it's valuable past the vanity metric of being able to say that you made $10,000 a month. It's just simply more sustainable. It's like it gives you access to a different level of support. It gives you access to just options in your business, right? So now at $2,420 a month, let's say you find a bulk of team members, different options, and they're all $30 an hour still. So total payroll, you can afford 80 hours a month, 80 hours a month, right? So I know this is a lot of numbers, so try to stay with me. But let's say your average client, you have 4 of those clients, right? Your average client is about 10 hours of work per month between creating the content, doing, light engagement, we'll say 30 minutes a day for 2 days a week or whatever the case is. So that's about 40 hours for client support. So let's say you hire someone for 40 hours a month to completely, essentially replace you over time, right? So now your 4 clients are totally handled by this additional social media person that you've hired, or replace that with whatever, fully hired by, or fully covered by. So Candace is a wedding photographer. All of your client weddings are currently covered. All of your stylist clients are covered. All of your music education clients are covered, right? And keeping in mind that it's going to take a while to to get to that point. You're going to have to educate them, right? But then you still have 40 hours a month of additional payroll that you can afford. Well, now maybe you can actually hire some operation support. You can hire someone to help you with the onboarding and the offboarding and the delivery and the marketing. Or you have more options. You can save some money, right? You can increase your profit. You can turn your profit margins up a bit. You can take on more clients, right? So now if you had, I'm sorry, guys, I have to cough 1 second. Sorry. So now let's say, you had 4 clients that you had to serve by yourself, but now you're able to replace yourself and someone else can take on those 4 clients. You could take on 4 more clients and now you're making $22,000 a month, right? You're doubling your revenue again, simply by leveraging support. Oh my gosh, sorry, y'all. Okay, I think I'm good. So really the point here, guys, is that pricing appropriately is going to position you to be able to grow your business in a much more sustainable way. So what do we think about this? Did this resonate with anybody? What are your thoughts? Let me know in the chat. Absolutely. Yes. I love it. I love it. So some main takeaways that I think you can kind of get from this particular visual is, what do my prices actually need to look like? Oh, and one thing I didn't mention, guys, I am not team double the price is the price, increase the price and add tax. I'm not on this movement of you're the expert, so charge more, right? I do believe in charging based on where you're really at, or where you're really at in business. I do believe in charging based on the value that you actually provide. Nothing is worse than paying a really high price service provider, thinking you're going to get a high level of service and then getting crap service, right? But on the other side of that, you do have to price in a way that can maintain the integrity of the business. Wondering how to project for this if my monthly revenue varies. Yeah, that's totally fine. I would look at your average. One thing my CFO always tells me is when she's looking at my revenue for the year, she's going to draw a line from January to December. And if the line is, straight across, that tells me that our revenue is pretty consistent. If the line goes up, then it's consistently growing. If the line goes down, then it's consistently declining, regardless of the ebbs and flows in between. You just want to draw a line through your average revenue, or through your revenue, right? So for you, if this monthly revenue varies, then you're likely going to be the type of business that when you have those really high cash months, you're keeping a more hefty reserve for when you have those lower months, right? And I experienced that too. So we might have a month where we do 60,000, and then we might have a month where we do 20,000, just based on like how business flows and functions. But because we keep a high cash reserve, like there's never really any variance on the way that we're able to, I guess, fulfill all of our invoices and that kind of thing. So yeah, that's a really good question. So wedding photographer, I'm sure you have seasons. For those of us in retail, we probably have seasons. For those of us that primarily operate on a launch basis in our business, so maybe we're not consistently selling, we just have 2 or 3 big launches a year. You might have 2 to 3 big cash injections and no income coming in those other months. So that's when it's really important to save and to have like appropriate, just, I guess, savings and reserves. That's a good question. Okay. So reasons that you may be at capacity. So first off, let's talk about what capacity is. So maybe that'd be a good like chat thing. Can everybody just tell me in the chat, what is your interpretation of capacity? What does it mean for you when you say I'm at capacity right now? What does capacity mean for you? When my energy feels like I can't support any more clients, the amount of clients I handle while still giving myself, my family, and my clients my best, about 10 to 15 VIP day clients a month, or else I start seeing copy in my sleep. I don't have any more room to accept a client. The amount of clients I'm able to take on, for me, 20 weddings a year that I book with my associates. So 35 to 40 total. Okay, cool. So capacity for me definitely means like the amount of clients that I'm able to serve without compromising myself, right? Just being honest, I probably don't have a huge, or I mean, I probably have a huge capacity. That's what I meant to say. I could probably have 300 people in my program at once and be okay. But like, I would be way more stressed. I would not be my best self. Right. And so for me, capacity means the nice like balance between the most I can do without compromising my well-being. Right. So it sounds like we all have like a similar example or explanation of that. So let's talk about some of the reasons why you may be at capacity. So I want you guys to think about your onboarding and offboarding processes. This one's going to be a little bit more specific to our service-based clients. If you're here and you do like product-based or more retail, then I'll give another example for that too. But looking at your on and offboarding processes, right? So I want you to think about, how do people go from being interested in working with you to actually being a paying client? Most of that process should be automated. So if you were to apply for the program today, I would look at your application. If you were a good fit, I would say accepted, right? And once you're accepted, you get all these automatic emails that will walk you through what the program is and allow you to enroll. Then you go to the enrollment page, you check out. Once you check out, you select your payment plan option, whatever, you get an onboarding email that's going to walk you through all the stuff you need to do to get started in the program. It's going to give you access to all of the different options, the portal, the Facebook group, how to book your first call, whatever. And all I do is show up once I see you on your first call. Everything else is handled for me, right? So an example for product-based. So we have A. Wilson Cakes. She does specialty cakes, wedding cakes, right? So an example for that might be, I'm on your website and I'm interested in buying a cake. And so maybe instead of just filling out an inquiry form that gets sent to you, and now you have to read that inquiry form and get back to me and send me all these, quotes and stuff. Maybe on your website, instead of just a simple inquiry form, it's a really, really detailed like process, right? where it helps you visualize the type of cake that you might want, helps you visualize, okay, this is the amount of tiers that I want, right? And I'm checking those things. And then at the end, maybe it gives me like a projected price range, or at least a starting point, right? And so then by the time that I'm clicking submit, I already know, okay, this is kind of what I want it to look like. This is, the amount of tiers that it's going to have. These are some of the flavors I might want. Here, okay, now it's telling me a projected price. So now when I go to do a consultation with you, I already have a lot of that information up front, right? Instead of your call having to fill the gaps. I'm not sure if you do like consultation calls or like free calls, but I think a lot of us have those incorporated in our process. And I think the best advice that I can give anybody who has calls, consultations, whatever, is you need to collect the most amount of information from this person before you ever get on the call. And on the flip side, they need to know the most amount of information that they can about you and your process before they ever get on the call. My sales calls are 10 to 15 minutes max. And it is simply a time for them to connect with me, see my face, ask any specific questions that they have, because they've already gone through a quick training that walks them through what the program is in totality. They've already filled out an application. I already know everything I need to know about them, right? But some of us are asking those questions initially on the call, right? Take your time to do your calls as your time to go further than to get the information for the first time, right? And for those of us that have like a retail space or some type of service, whatever, sometimes it might just be educating our clients ahead of time on what they can expect and having like a prompt process for how we move people along, right? Maybe I have a retail store where we sell, I know Georgina's here, right? So she is doing like custom homemade like body care products, right? So maybe we have a set process. When someone comes in, we have an associate that meets them at the door. We have a set list of questions that we take them through so that we can efficiently guide them through what product they want to get so that they can get in and get out in the most efficient and like effective way possible. Same thing for offboarding processes, right? Once your client is done, how do we get them out the door quicker? Right? Whether it's your physical door or your virtual door. And the reason why I bring this up, speaking about capacity, is sometimes you might be at capacity simply because we're slow to get them in and we're slow to get them out. If we could do those things quicker, we might be able to serve more people, right? Next one is client delivery. Sometimes we're just overdoing it. We're offering way too much stuff, right? We're doing all of this stuff because we think that that's what the client needs. We think that more things conveys more value when that may not be the case, right? So if you're on the coaching or agency side of things, I want you to think about what is actually required for my client to get the result, right? What's actually required for them to give me the testimonial that I'm looking for. If I want my clients to come in and be able to cut their workload in half and hire their dream team, what do I absolutely need to include in this process to make that happen? If you're on the product-based side or you run a storefront, right? What is absolutely required for my clients, my customers, to get the experience that they're looking for? What am I just throwing in there just to be extra, right? Where could I even cut costs, especially on just random things that you're doing, right? I think one example of that might be, let's say you are packaging your products and you put a number of different cards in there, right? You put a thank you card, you put a coupon card, you put this card, you put that card, and then you do the math and you realize that you're spending hundreds of dollars a month on different print materials, right? But then we realize that like, well, we're sending this card asking our clients to do a survey, but they're actually not doing the survey. So like maybe instead of putting this print card, we could put it in a different place in our process. It's hard to give like super specific examples right now off the top of my head, but I just want you to think about all the parts of the process that you're doing and what's actually necessary. I also want you to think about your process in general, right? Just moving them through the entire thing. So after the onboarding, once you're there to serve them, right? So you're the, let's use the hairstylist example, right? You're the hairstylist and You have them come in and then you shampoo them and then you deep condition, you put them under the dryer or whatever. How could we potentially rearrange this process or better leverage our team members to, increase our capacity, right? I've seen, you come into a shop and I've seen, someone else shampoos you so that you could be wrapping up another client, right? Just thinking about what parts of my process are inefficient. How can I refine that to save myself some time? Because once you've priced yourself appropriately, it's not just the money. It's not just the money that's going to increase your capacity. Sometimes it's the way that we're delivering this service. And then finally, thinking about just how many calls you're on in general. So are you doing a lot of consultations? Are you doing, if you're an agency, like, do you have multiple check-in calls throughout the process? If you just simply have a team, how many team meetings and that type of thing are we on? I want you to maybe think about the number of calls that you do per week. And if you guys use Google Calendar, they actually have a really cool insights tab to the left that will tell you how much time you're spending in meetings. And it's very eye-opening. But if you look at that, again, asking yourself, which of these calls are actually necessary? I find that a lot of my clients who have like an agency style business that are doing these consistent like check-in calls, or if you're doing web design or copy or graphics, something with a deliverable, feeling like we have to get on the phone to then review that with our clients, you may find that like, oh, that's actually not fully necessary. Like my clients actually don't even want to be on a call with me that much. Maybe I can send this over in a Loom video and then give them the option to book a call. One of my accounting clients started to make her monthly calls optional and cut her calls down by more than half. She realized that like half of her clients didn't even want to do a call. They were just doing it because I thought it was a part of the process. So is this making sense? Do you guys have any questions about this? Or does this feel like, wow, this might be where I'm stuck? Like I'm getting the people through the door, I'm pricing it right, but it's just taking them way too long to get to the other side. Starting to have clients come to me or be online during possible high volume hours to be able to take them back instead of traveling to them. Okay. I like that. I like that. Okay. Awesome. Hold on. So this is my next point. Ascension models are bullshit. So if you're not familiar with an ascension model, it's basically this thought that you need to have an offer for someone at the beginning, someone at the middle. And then once they do that offer, we need to sell them into our next offer and sell them into our next offer. And we just kind of push people through this long cycle, right? Let me tell you why I don't like these. You do not have to serve people at every level of business. And doing this is going to keep you out of alignment, right? You're going to be feeling overworked, confused, and operating without integrity. You might only want to serve people at one phase of their business, one phase of their life. Now, even just thinking about your niche in general, if you are specializing in one particular area, you don't have to be the jack of trades or jack of all trades in every single area of the business, right? Sometimes you might just want to serve people in this one particular phase. How many of us right now feel like we're trying to serve way too many people at way too many different levels? Okay. Me. That's music in a nutshell. Me. I do. Yep. And I think this is again another like what would you call it? Just like consistent message that's kind of being put out there is that like you should be able to serve more people. The more people you can serve, the more money you're going to be able to make, and so on and so forth. But I personally believe that like the more specific you are on who you serve, the more money you're going to be able to make. And this isn't even really a conversation about niching down and being like in this one area of the business. It's more so to say that like you don't have to serve outside of your experience level, right? When I first started my business, I was only working with people who wanted to, build their team, whatever. But then over time, people started asking me, oh, well, do you offer recruiting services? Oh, do you offer this? Do you offer that? And like, I could say yes, and I could step outside of what I know to be integral for my business, but that's only going to position me for more frustration, more just, I don't know, lack of contentment too, right? Like, it is an amazing thing to be really, really good at the one thing that you do. So, Frank, an example for you, maybe not right now, but there could come a time where you focus in on 3 to 5 instruments of people who are at experience level A to C, and that's it, right? Maybe we're only focusing on beginners who want to learn how to play these 3 to 5 instruments, or whatever the case is. But you don't have to serve everyone. And I know when the business is still newer, you're feeling like, well, I'm not going to make money if I don't, but just try different things out and see what works best for you. As a doctor, people think I should be available 24/7. I'm pretty sure they do, right? But how can we, Petra, you can actually tell me a little bit more about what you do specifically, but I want you to think about how can I better either communicate or better structure the offerings that I have to people so that they don't expect that of me, right? And we're going to talk about client boundaries in a little bit too, where that'll really kind of start to come together for us. So when you're structuring your offers, some things that I want you guys to consider is what is required of me for the client or the customer to get the transformation that they're looking for. So if I am a business coach, what is required for the client to get the transformation? If I am selling a product in my storefront, what is required of me for my customer to get exactly what they need? If I'm a stylist, what is required from me for my client to get the desired style that they're looking for? And limit it to that, right? Like, we just want to keep it within that realm. Next, am I empowering or enabling my clients? Am I creating a life or a world of codependency with my client? Or am I putting them in a position to support them or to be able to support themselves long after working with me? Do my boundaries exist, and am I enforcing them? Thinking about your offers, what boundaries do you have around your products and your services? What boundaries do you have around customer service? What boundaries do you have around just fulfillment in general? What boundaries do you have around your own schedule, right? And if we don't have those, how can we create them, right? We're going to talk about boundaries here in a little bit. Does this structure align with my vision? I think that's the biggest question. Maybe just let me know in the chat. Do you feel like your current structure within your business aligns with your personal vision? Yes or no? Petra, I'm an internist. I manage chronic medical illnesses, especially difficult ones that general practitioners may need a little help with. Okay, awesome. Petra, I think I got your application. So maybe if you want to kind of formulate a question, I think it'll be a good hot seat moment. Hopefully I draw your name. Okay, Carolee says yes for now. That's good. That's good. Lindsay, no, my structure does not align with my vision right now. Totally fine. So now it's about figuring out, well, what elements of this do I need to change? Lastly, what is the framework? The step-by-step process. You need to have a framework for everything. Like, yes, I have my framework. It's called the Recover Method. That's what helps me get my client the result. But I also have a framework in my head of how I coach my clients through issues, right? I have a framework for how I build my workshops. We have a framework for how our clients are onboarded and offboarded. And I don't say this to overwhelm you, like, oh my gosh, I need all these things. But it's more so to say that, like, the more you can create a set process or structure for things, the easier it's going to be for you to then delegate. If you have a physical storefront, your framework is what happens from the time they walk in to the time that they walk out. What is the process that we're guiding them through, right? What's the experience that we're creating for them every single time? That's also the key to consistency. The way that you create a consistent experience for your clients and customers is by having this set framework that we take them through, right? Okay. Uh-oh. What happened? Okay, cool. So what happens when you make your offers more scalable? One, you're going to be able to make more money, obviously. You're going to be able to feel more confident, which I think is so important. Like we want to be able to move through our business every day feeling like I know what the hell I'm doing. You can get way more done. You can begin to really respect yourself more. And as a result, so do your clients. If you find that your clients are consistently like overstepping boundaries, they're consistently, texting you and sending you messages on Instagram after you've, stated this is where we have our communication. If you find that, your clients are always asking you for things outside of the scope, sometimes there are things that we can do on our end to create the type of environment where people don't feel like they can do that, right? People don't even ask that of you. I think like the very first coach that I worked with, that was something I noticed about her. Like nobody ever even tried to, you know, get additional coaching in ways that weren't included or ask more than what was included in their initial package when they started. And I think the reason why that was she just had this level of respect for herself that I feel like demanded that same respect from us. And that's something I've been working on, right? Like I am a recovering people pleaser. And I feel like I used to want to bend over backwards to give people what they wanted. But what I realized was the more that I'm bending over backwards for others, the less that I'm able to really do for myself. Structure and boundaries is what actually creates the freedom that we're looking for, not the other way around. We're looking at structure as if it's this super like, what's the word? Super um stuffy thing, right? Like we look at structure like it's going to limit us, rigid. Yes, that's a really good word for it. We look at it like it's rigid. We look at corporate companies and the last jobs that we had, and we think, oh, I am starting my business so I don't have to have it that structured. Like I hated all the rules and regulations. But then we start our own business and we actually realize like, wow, I'm glad that I had that experience because now I see the value in having some structure. So we just have to figure out how to do it in a way that works best for you, right? You're also going to be able to step into CEO mode. Some of us feel like we haven't experienced that. Some of us may even feel like we struggle to identify with being a CEO because we feel like we're just doers. We're just doing all the things in our business, right? But when you make your offers more scalable, it's going to put you in position to be able to really hire the support that you're looking for and to be able to better utilize the support that you already have. And then finally, you're creating a foundation to scale. You're going to be able to grow your business and like maintain that growth over time and not feel like, man, I did all this work, I made all this money, and then it crashed because I didn't have the right foundation in place. So let's talk about some changes that you might want to make today. So this would be a good slide to screenshot. So first, I want you to create a PDF explaining your boundaries to clients and send that as a newsletter update. This does not need to be like, hey, these are my boundaries, you need to follow them. I think one really good way to phrase this is like, how to best work with us, or how we can best work together. And again, it's of benefit to them, right? We're explaining how things work on our end so that we can better serve them, better show up for them. So, you can send this as a newsletter update to your clients. If you are selling a product that sells maybe like online, I think this is a really good email to send to your customers explaining like how to best contact us when your package it hasn't arrived yet, right? How to let us know when a product maybe has arrived damaged. Or if you're running like a brick and mortar location, I think this is a really good thing to have either like as a sign on your register, at your front door, whatever, explaining your processes and how things work and how to get the most out of your experience in our storefront today, right? Next, increasing your prices on your website now for incoming clients. So I know a lot of us are thinking, okay, I definitely need to raise my price by this much, but like, I don't want to lose my current clients. That should not stop you from changing your price for incoming clients or incoming customers, right? For products that haven't yet sold, services that have not yet sold. And the next would be sending rate increase emails. You can kind of do this how you want. I remember I worked with a social media agency once, and their current price was like 1,500, but they still had grandfathered in clients that were paying like $300 a month. So like, obviously we need to change that, but maybe you don't send them straight to 1,500. Maybe you don't send them straight to market rate. Maybe you send them to 900 or 1,000, whatever, like make it work for you. But do keep in mind that anytime you're sending rate increase emails, there's always a chance that someone is not going to renew, and that is not a bad thing. I was working with a designer for a period of time, and she increased her rates. And like, while I was so proud of her for doing that, it exceeded what I had budgeted for design. And so we had to like part ways, but she's able to now go out and find clients who are able and willing to pay that new price. Right. So don't look at it as like, oh my gosh, I'm going to lose everybody. Or let's say you, going back to like the stylist example, someone has always paid this much to get their hair done, and now they're like, what the heck? Yes, there is a possibility they're going to find a new stylist, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's a bad thing for you. Sometimes it just means that like the relationship has, the season has passed for that relationship, and it's time to move on for both of you, right? But with that being said, you can, kind of do this in a way that makes sense for you so that you don't lose all your clients at once. And then you're like, what the heck, right? Eliminating offers you hate, just stop selling it. Like, just stop. Like the effort that you were putting into selling this service or product that you hated, just start putting that effort into the one that you really want to sell. Define the process you use for each time you're serving your clients. And that can literally, guys, just be on a piece of paper, writing out, okay, they come in, they get this, they do that, then they do this, then they do that. And then as you kind of work through this, it'll become more and more refined. If you already have someone on your team who does operations, this is definitely a good exercise to do with them. And then lastly, starting to map out what support you need. In the next couple of sessions, we'll talk about that further and like how to like rearrange roles and stuff, but that's something I want you to think about. So Frank says, some of my 30-minute clients need to move to 45. Some of my 45s to 60, thinking about raising rates in January, but allowing current clients to stay at the old rate. If they increase time in fall quarter. I like that a lot. And I think that's like one of the examples of how you can like ease into it. You don't have to jump off the deep end of like, hey, price is tripling, you better, get with it or get lost, right? Like we can create a more custom journey for our grandfathered or our long-standing clients. So these are the decisions that a CEO is tasked with, y'all. Like you can't skip this part. This is the hard part, but this is like the part where I feel like leaders are made. Like when you can lead your company, when you can lead through these types of decisions, when you can be a decisive decision maker, that is going to only position you for like absolute excellence as you begin to, really build out your team and work with your team on a deeper level. So I want to leave you feeling like this is hard work, but this is necessary work. And like, I am more than equipped to be able to do this.